Hey, there's a lot of you buying PCs out there again. Go figure. You're watching Techstrong, gang. Hey, good morning, everyone. Well, it may not be morning, could be afternoon, evening. I don't know when you're watching this, but whenever it is, I hope it's a good part of the day or evening for you. It is Wednesday here on Techstrong Gang, and we are happy to have you join us. Let me quickly introduce you to our panel today. We have Chris Blask, who is also drowning in his beers over the Blue Jays, Kate Scarcella, Mitch Ashley, and he's looking up towards next year already. Cole's throwing off the mound, I heard. Mike Vizard.
Hey, guys.
Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to Wednesday Techstrong Gangs. Good to see you all.
Good to see you. Good to be here.
Good morning. Good day.
All right. That was my way of doing a mic check.
I see.
I'm glad it's all working. So, Mike, as I led off with, it seems people are buying PCs again. Go figure. PC sales jump, and we've got a bunch of different potential reasons for it. I'm looking forward to getting into it, but let me kick it over to you. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it seems like, Microsoft is pulling support and people are finally hearing that. At least, I don't know how much of this is consumers versus corporate, but we'll jump into that in a minute. But there's a couple of interesting facts in here. So PC sales are up. It's not clear that people are buying those newfangled AI PCs, which are still relatively expensive. And if you look into the data points, the two big winners here seem to be, one is Lenovo, and then the second one, surprisingly, is Apple is benefiting very handsomely from the fact that people are revisiting what PC that they want to get, and many of them are switching out from Windows to Apple. Heaven forbid, but that seems to be occurring. So when you look at all this stuff, it seems like, we're seeing a big boost in these systems. I'm assuming small businesses are involved in this as well. And what I can't quite figure out is, are corporations still holding on to Windows 10 because they have all this software that's tied to it, or are they really going to migrate to Windows 11? And we have a lot of, if you've ever done a operating system migration, it's not easy in a corporate environment. So it's not a whole lot of fun. But Alan, what's your take?
So I think that, as you said, Mike, there's several factors at play here. One obviously is the sunset of Windows 10 support. All those Windows XP and 95 users are going to have to do something. But I think the fact of the matter is, in the corporate world, it's huge. I think in the individual world, people don't necessarily run out and get a new Windows PC because Windows 10 support or Windows XP, as we've seen, unfortunately, it makes all kinds of security problems. But there is that normal circadian rhythm, if you will, of corporate PC upgrades. And, sunset gets dark and we buy new PCs. What I find interesting is how many people are still using their PCs versus tablets, phones, or other computing devices. How many people are using laptops versus desktops, right? With no one, everyone being hybrid, you probably need more of a portable solution. Though I got to tell you, I love coming into the office and working on my iMac, which is an all-in-one. And there are Windows versions of that all-in-one as well. I still prefer that over a laptop. When I use my laptop in an office, I still like to have external monitors. But, I'm not your average user. I get that. So I think that's part of it. The AI PC is attracting, I think, that early adopter, cool kid crowd who wants to say they're doing AI on their PC. Of course, the real problem is, what the hell are you going to do AI-wise on that AI PC? There's no compelling software. There's no compelling killer app. I think Futurum has a decent report out on that. You can go check out. But until there is, again, people like me will buy it just because I can say I have an AI PC, but big deal. What are you doing with it? And then lastly, we're looking at new distribution models for PC. How many people are buying PCs in Costco? I was in Costco the other day. I was blown away by the selection of laptops they have. Actually, they had all-in-ones too. But they've got a great selection there from the people you mentioned, Lenovo, Apple, but others.
As we noted in the lead into this story, at least in the show notes, Intel's got pop-up stores now that you can go pop in and buy whatever you want.
So that got me by surprise, though. With everything Intel has on its plate, does it really need to get into pop-up stores? Didn't they try this before, or was that the Microsoft store?
Microsoft stores, but yeah.
But Intel was like a big investor in or something, weren't they? Like MDF funds or something.
What I thought funny about the Intel story is this what they did with the U.S. investment? And there's only one store. So basically in the U.S., I mean, so.
Well, maybe because the U.S. owns them, we can start selling them on military bases or something.
Well,
Alan,
maybe Intel just doesn't like the way Dell and HP and Lenovo are marketing things. I don't know.
Maybe.
John Schwartz's story, I think it's on, is it Techstrong IT, if I remember right, is talking about, is there a compelling reason in terms of AI for doing updates? That's a lot of what Olivier Blanchard's report was about from Futurum. It's a great guy, really up on what's happening on the intelligent devices market. And, my experience is enterprises don't rush out and say, oh, there's a new chip, let's go buy new computers. Oh, there's a new app, let's go buy new computers. Most of the time, they've got a planned refresh cycle. We think these will last 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years. They budget, because it's a capital expenditure, right? And so they've got a budget for that. And they have programs, and the next year, this is a refresh year, and here's the 3 models you can choose from, Dell or HP or Lenovo or Apple or whatever you're providing from. Maybe the AI boom prompted some of that to happen a little bit earlier. I'm not really sure if that's true, but you have multiple factors. You have AI happening. Bigger thing, I think, is, end of life or end of support for Windows 10. So you're getting pushed off of that and push you onto Windows 11. And just where spending is at. What companies are doing to conserve cash given economic conditions, or is it time they don't want to miss the AI boat, so let's do our refresh?
And it's not just, to be clear, this is the Windows 10 farewell tour. That's what this story is about, right? But it's embedded in everything else. We all, in our daily lives, in our daily professional lives, and in this show talk about over time. So you put it all together, right? So this is a bump for that reason. And as you say, Alan, there is no killer AI app. But, if you're a person, you look at the demographic of buyers, there's geeks like us who will buy them and there's people a couple of quarters behind. And as it flattens out, we will get AI apps and applications into next year and so forth. If you're a corporation organization, maybe now is the time to up some hardware for whatever reasons. But looking out into next year and the year beyond, when we're really wanting to use and capitalize, particularly that new hardware, how are we going to be using it? Right. And, as I have my own, we use the word mesh a lot right now. And you touched on this, like the last decade has been, what do you mean my computer? It's like, I have my laptop that I use a lot. And I got a desktop and I have 17 different, devices, and it's all in the cloud. Well, maybe, at home, I actually need a certain amount of compute. Now, do I need a computer that sits there idle 99.9% of the time, or do I need a household mesh of devices to do things? So anyways, whatever that killer AI app is, there's lots of opportunity space. In my world, it's that this hardware is being better used in complex environments at smaller scales in its hardware lifetime. Even new equipment today, in the 1, 2, 3 years, you really expect to get value out of it. You'll do different things with it.
Mike, this sits in contrast to that Wharton study we talked about yesterday, right? Where executives, the bloom hasn't fallen off the rose quite yet for the AI. They see they're real positive about it. Middle management, less so. But even though there may not be a killer app yet, doesn't seem like at least executives haven't pulled back the reins quite yet on AI.
Are we just waiting for some sort of security event to kick the remaining people who will not give up Windows 10 off of that platform? Because, well, there's going to be no free updates. You got to pay for those updates from here on out. But I feel like there's going to be some sort of event in the next couple of months that's just going to get everybody to go, all right, I finally give up. I'm getting rid of this thing.
If that was the case, I think we would have seen less Windows 95 in our critical infrastructure. So
I don't think that's but let's go back to a simpler time when the world was a simpler place, but in some ways more fun. Let's have a good old-fashioned Mac versus PC discussion. The knock on Macs is the backward compatibility of them, right? Apple didn't give a crap about backward compatibility when Microsoft did. But here we are with Microsoft saying, look, Windows 10, and look, Windows 10's long in the tooth, right? Windows 11's been out a while, but Windows 10's no longer supported. You got to kind of upgrade that. Where here, you go talk to Mac users, you're going to have people using MacBooks, whether it's MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, just plain MacBook, but they're going to have M5s, M4s, M3, M2, M1. You may even have some that are still running Intel processors. Now, the Intel processors can't, Mitch, what's the latest Mac OS? Was it
Tahoe?
Tahoe. The Intels, I don't believe, run Tahoe.
I don't think so.
But they're all running Mac OS, and from M1 on can all run Tahoe. Right? They're all backward compatible. And so you have 5 generations of processors there that are all still viable and out in the market. It's almost like they've switched roles between the Mac and the PC here. Though, look, you have Windows that runs on Qualcomm Snapdragon.
Mm-hmm.
Though that has compatibility issues. My son found out taking the bar exam this year. The Qualcomm Snapdragon didn't pass you couldn't use it. You have it on Intel, you have it on ARM, you have it on AMD, on the x86s. But, Windows has become slightly more versatile on the amount of platforms, the amount of processors it plays on. But some of the backwards compatibility is waning. So a real change back from the old days.
Windows on ARM. Who would have guessed,
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I'm going to hold out for Windows 12, man. I don't know what it is, and I don't know when it's coming, but by God.
I thought they weren't doing Windows 12. I thought they were going to do like a Mac OS X and then just have like that kind of thing. But who knows?
I think there's they were talking about an agentic operating system at one of their latest conferences. So I think that's in the offing. So whatever that is, I want to wait for that.
I will throw down on that one because I've been a Xenix, SEO Xenix. I'll take my Unix creds, back to the early days, and we build everything on Linux now. Everything, right? I don't want to jump out here. I am. And say, this OS wars are dead, but it used to be. I keep thinking that Unix, Linux.
Wait a second, Chris. Are you trying to tell me this is the year of Linux on the desktop?
I don't know. I don't know if I'll go that far, right? Because we're talking Windows. This is the Windows 10 farewell tour. Let's be respectful of the dead, right? But it's still there. No people are. You say no one's going to stop using their existing computers for a long time, and I don't really care. The desktop's a harder thing, but I've used it on the desktop. We're on a Ubuntu Linux OS, CAP server right now, and it's so much easier for me now. Even configuring the bloody
2 dozen other people.
But anyway, my point is, though, I think you put these things together again. The vibe coding speed of AI today, much less 12, 24, 36 months from now. Maybe we can stop having to have some corporation print us an operating system that more or less does kind of what everybody mostly wants to do. And the individual nodes on your network will just configure themselves to do what they need to.
Yeah.
Because that's the way we're building them now.
And I am with Chris on this. I mean, Ubuntu, and it really, if we're not going to do anything new with the hardware technology that is coming, then it's, what's the point? So Ubuntu for the win.
Right.
All
and
right.
spread things
We're-
out. Make
I'm
it
going to
complicated.
end this. Wait, no, I got to end it right here, Mike. You know what? We're going to end. We'll take a break. 2026, the year of Linux, coming to your PC.
It's an
Let's
election.
come.
A lot of promises. being made.
Let's come back and talk about, hey, if we could do that, why can't OpenAI solve all our security problems? That's next here on Techstrong, gang.
You've earned it. The spotlight, the responsibility, the weight of teams, companies, and entire industries fall on your shoulders. Lives depend on your decisions, your home life included. At work, you're protected, physically and digitally. Nothing gets through your team without a fight. But in a globally connected world, everyone sees you, including those who mean to cause you and your organization harm. And now home, your sanctuary. Attackers see an opportunity. Your digital front door is wide open. And what compromises your home can breach your boardroom. Because the devil's greatest trick isn't targeting your workplace firewall. It's convincing you that your personal life isn't at risk. Black Cloak. Digital executive protection, defending the new attack surface. Your personal life.
All right, folks, we're back, and we're talking about OpenAI has got this new tool they're calling Aardvark, and it promises to go in and identify vulnerability issues in your code and remediate it. That sounds like the magic silver bullet that we've been looking for all these years. But Kate, what's your take on this? Is this possible? And do I really want to let the AI fix things without me checking on it first? How is that going to play out?
Right? That's the question. Can we trust AI to secure the code? It's now writing. So OpenAI's release of Aardvark, an AI security agent designed to detect and remediate code vulnerabilities, is more than a feature drop. It signals a pivot in how software will be secured going forward. I personally, as you know, think that we have to get rid of this whole, I'm for debloating and, getting rid of code that we're not using anymore, just turning it off and, just getting rid of it. So I think when I look at this, I think specifically that this will help go towards that model of, we have over 40,000 secure coding vulnerabilities. We need something. We as humans are not able to do it. If we were, we would be doing a heck of a better job than we are now. So I think personally, from a cybersecurity point of view, that this is good. I mean, we need something that will help us with speed and to detect vulnerabilities. And I'm for, DevSecOps, AI. This is it.
DevSecOps with an attitude. And again, on this bloody show early this year, we we're laughing about it. What are you going to use? AI to yes. Kate, yes, right? And there's a yes, but to that, right? But this is security. If I'm the adversary, and maybe I am, who knows who's the adversary, right? I'm staring at you and using these tools to find the vulnerabilities. I will find all those vulnerabilities. So you should probably look too. Now, Mike, right? Who's auditing the auditor? Who's auditing the auditor, right? That's our world, right? Attested systems where you're actually tracking things and verifying things, not even just as we do as humans, but we realize as we look at human structures, we kind of skip steps sometimes, and we're coding those things in so you can do them. And as you're again, just CVs, this has come up a lot of times in the past. Our idea for the last 30 years is if I can find all the vulnerabilities and I can see what people are doing against them, maybe before they do things to me, I can put those together. That's coming to an end anyways. But this is a good exercise in the end era of that. So do you want to spend human time looking for vulnerabilities? No. Automate the living crap out of them and do that in reasonable environments. I would call them a tested environment so that you're not just wandering off into a AI hallucination. put that into a human process where the humans are focusing on the human on the other side of the glass and not on the AI vulnerability tools they're using.
Mitch, people have been talking about this issue forever, and we have plenty of other tools out there that scan code and sometimes at least suggest fixes. Maybe OpenAI is going a step further, but how does this stack up from what we already have out there?
Well, the current generation of code fixing or finding vulnerabilities, maybe recommending fixes if they do that, is vast and wide. I mean, everybody from Microsoft, AWS, Google, Atlassian, name the company, to people you've never heard of, people that I haven't talked to yet, that are in this area. Aardvark is another attempt at that, but pretty much at least all that I've seen are essentially doing what we do today. They're just automating it using AI to go find vulnerabilities. Aardvark's a little interesting because it looks at the repositories. Others happen in the IDE, the scan code, when others happen at the point of check-in. So there's different points in time, but they all rely on a human to look at the results and say, yeah, that's a problem. I'll go fix it. Or, yeah, that's a problem, but your fix is not good enough. We have to go do it. Or I'll accept your fix. And as we generate more and more code, especially as we generate code with AI that has more security vulnerabilities, that's a problem. There was an interesting study, IEEE study, that did some analysis on when you're using AI tools to development, you just don't generate the code and then go do something else. You sit there and iterate it with the AI, with the model or agent that you're using. That about the fourth iteration of it working on the same code is when you would start to see incremental vulnerabilities being introduced. So it's kind of builds on itself and then starts making mistakes. So these are all interesting. I think, yes, I'm glad we're doing it. And yes, we'll have agents that will start to do some auto remediation. But I think until it fully agentic isn't going to matter until we fix it at the point of origin, what I call the code, secure code OG. That's where we need to solve it, is before it ever hits the screen or the repository or anything else getting spit out of the code generation process.
Well, and that speaks to exactly the kind of problems we're having right now that I don't expect to persist a lot longer, because drift, right? And again, in venues like this, we have folks like us talking about things that I think our very future selves will assume are obvious, right? If I have an LLM and it's generating code and putting it into its own context window and rerunning on that, they're reading their context window as they go forward, and on 3 or 4 iterations down a path, drift is a thing. Why? Because you're generating on your own code. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of how we do it. I'm generating code and you guys are consuming it and so on and so forth. But that's this brittle, unattested environment we talk about all the time, right? You can't expect a person or an LLM or anyone to write things and build on their own writings without cross matching, verifying, coming back to reality. And there's 5 of us on this screen. We're literally bouncing ideas back and forth with each other. And then we turn to this LLM, this little model of a human predicting words, and say, sit in this little box by yourself and tell yourself stories until you can't tell where you are anymore. And we're surprised it makes up fairy tales. It's like, how about making sure it's tied to other things and not just in this little box? Anyways, rant.
So here's my take on it. I wanted to welcome OpenAI into the quest for the Holy Grail. Yep. No, you got to get the coconut things that go like this. You remember?
Yeah. Sorry.
Hey, is she a witch? Does she float? No, but seriously, we've all been, looking for this brass ring off the carousel to pull, to combat code vulnerabilities and to do it as far left as possible. And Mitch, you want to do it at the instant of the Big Bang, maybe we'll go that far back.
There you go.
It's not going to happen. Let's look. You know what? There really is no Santa Claus either.
Hey,
I'm not going to touch the God thing.
So
we've been through this before. There is a Santa Claus, Virginia.
Cover your children's ears.
Absolutely.
Can we have, since we were talking about medieval stuff, though, I just want to throw a nod to Kate there and say, I love that idea about the code. I think if we're going to be medieval, we should have, like in the bad days when they had, a plague and somebody would walk through town ringing the bell saying, bring out your dead. I think there should be a bring out your dead code day.
That's a brilliant idea. I love it, actually.
That was
Not
good.
dead
Well,
yet,
you
not
put
dead
your
yet.
foot in your mouth with the medieval and Kate thing, but you did nicely with it.
Wait, I think that was a compliment. I'm not sure.
I'll
But-
take it as well.
I mean,
I like
yes,
that so much. But
Yeah.
right, I'm going to go there for a second because Alan, you're right. There was no fairy godmother, Holy Grail. However, right, Mitch, what you bring up with more and creating more vulnerability with AI code. The difference is that while there may not be a Holy Grail, there's a difference between 9 and 1. Right, everything's on a scale, and we're used to the world right now where vulnerabilities are this level, this percentage of whatever, we have metrics for them as human generated, and we put in process around to try to make that a little bit better, and then we throw AI at it again, random, isolated AI that makes the problem worse. We can't forget that there are, I think we're sort of at an 8 in this one, and always have been. We've got like 8, 9, sometimes 7 in vulnerability pervasiveness. I think we can get it down to 1, 2, right? The volume of vulnerabilities and again, I don't think chasing vulnerabilities has much legs left at all. But I think the volume we can drive way down. You can't make it perfect. You absolutely cannot, no matter what you do. But we're used to this level of slop, and that's we can machine those bearings much, much, much closer.
Totally agree,
So,
Chris. Yes.
I don't disagree with that either. Here's what I think's going to happen. It's an arms race. As we learn to generate more code with AI, we'll also learn to generate more secure code with AI. And, for those of us who have been in security a while, this has been a holy grail. This has been, a blood kind of thing that we've been pursuing for all these years. My question, let me bring it back to the beginning or the premise of this is OpenAI the company that's going to do that? Anybody believe that?
Well, I don't believe that you should be using the LLM that you use to write the code to verify whether the code is secure. So,
Absolutely. And I don't believe we should be using the LLM company as my security company. I think people who have a bit more security expertise and experience, though for all I know, OpenAI went out, hey, look, they probably lost about $11 billion last quarter. Maybe they spent $1 billion of that or something on some security folk, Aquahire or something. But I would imagine that there are security companies out there who are using AI who have real deep security expertise that are working on this problem as well.
That sounds
I
like a
see
great
it.
company. No.
Excuse me?
That sounds like a great company to
Yeah.
start. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't think OpenAI wants to grow up and be a security company. I think it's more of a do something in the near term to just address vulnerability so that they are doing something while everyone else is also doing that. I don't see them surging ahead and taking the lead on fixing insecure code. But
I got a feeling everybody who makes these tools is suddenly running over to Anthropic going, hey, buddy, how you doing?
Yeah. They're all going to need one. Chris, I'll give you the last word, then we got to hang up here on this.
Sure. So, some hope for the future. Shout out to 2 folks out there in the AI world. You got Mark Weatherford, Chief Policy Officer at NVIDIA, key player just recently in there, bringing a huge legacy of understanding into that hardware layer. And Miles Brundage, not with OpenAI, but he was the policy guy out of Oxford into OpenAI and out in other ventures. And you can see the structure behind it. Like, again, I don't want to pick on OpenAI, it's too easy. But should we trust any one LLM company, anything? No. But they have roles to play. So OpenAI should be moving in this direction. If they get it right or wrong, I'm sure we will hold them accountable.
Absolutely. Let's take a break. We're going to come back here. And we got Mike. Mike's down in the National Harbor this week at an Ingram event, and he's going to give us an update. You're watching Techstrong, gang.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
Hey folks, as Alan said, I am in a hotel yet again, and this time we're in National Harbor for an event called Ingram Micro One. It's their annual conference with the channel. The channel is made up of all those folks who are resellers and system integrators and consultants that, are the fiber that kind of holds everything together out there, especially for SMBs. They rely heavily on these folks. And Ingram, most people don't realize, is, generating, close to billions and billions of dollars in revenue every year. And this is because they sell a lot of stuff and they're one of the big two in the IT distributor space. This week, they're talking about how they're using AI agents to start to automate some of that process. And the first thing they did was came up with a sales agent that enables their salespeople to look at, say, macroeconomic news and correlate that back to some of the historical sales data they have to recommend to some of their partners about maybe you should go talk to these companies in this particular vertical industry about buying this, that, and the other because, well, it's more relevant now than it was yesterday. This is part of a whole process that's starting to occur where AI agents are going to be both buyers and sellers, because the people who buy stuff will be putting AI agents into their purchasing apps, and somewhere in the ether, these things will somehow magically negotiate with each other, and we'll see how that comes. And then, as a side note, Daniel Newman from the Procurement Group was here with Tiffany Bova, and Daniel was up on stage and said, one of the things that I found interesting was that he said, hey, one of the most overhyped things for 2026 is this whole notion that AI is going to replace the need for humans in workflows. Well, as soon as I got back up on my chair, I kind of said, hey, that was pretty cool and pretty fair. And then Tiffany had some great insights about how, if you don't have your data house in order, you're not really going to be able to kind of leverage all this stuff. So, it was rational thought was kind of occurring on both ends here. And I thought that was, just outstanding. And as you kind of think about all this, though, it says, they also did a straw poll and just said how many of the partners were ready for AI. And I think, maybe 20 to 25% had their hands up as they're doing something, and the rest were still kind of studying their options and what they think is going to be happening. But Alan, how automated do you think that this whole purchasing cycle is going to get?
You're asking me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me say this. We're in an evolutionary, but a rapid evolutionary phase right now. I think we're going to see tremendous automation, especially when you're going down channel sales like this, right? Like Ingram's main, bread and butter business. It's going to be automated to no end with multiple sales teams being able to, point people into the buy process. However, I think we are barely scratching the surface of an agentic AI automated sales future where let's think about the effect it's going to have on the channel, about Ingram's real business. If I'm going to buy through Ingram, what's the advantage? Is it easier, cheaper, faster, better somehow? Right? And when we're talking in an age of agentic AI, if Ingram's agentic AI isn't the shizzle, I'm going direct because it's all automated anyway.
Right. And to your point, on the purchasing side, we'll have AI agents that will be instantly comparing prices and availability in split seconds and making certain decisions. And the other part of it that I don't quite get, though, is so let's just say, and maybe Chris, you can help me with this. So I'm a seller and I have an AI agent that I have programmed to optimally sell things at the highest margin or best margin possible. Now you, as the buyer or a purchaser, have an AI agent that's designed to buy things most efficiently and at the least cost possible. So won't these two agents just kind of meet somewhere in the ether and cancel each other out and call us for help? How's that going to work?
I think it's a perfect example of brittle systems, right? You can see the race condition right there. Right. And every buyer and every seller, locks horns immediately and collapses. And this is, we gave a demo for built a demo for Gadi Everin and his GTFO prompt series recently on how two AIs can develop trust over time, and you can take that and put it in a lot of different scenarios. But hadn't discussed that through in a sales scenario, but it's the same thing, right? If I'm the human who's setting up an AI system, I'm the buyer. I want my AI to go out and do these things, and I encounter this brittle situation. It just immediately crashes against, as you're sort of setting up, Mike. What do I do next, right? I still need to buy things. What's the next step? Well, the next step is to replicate, Ingram channel. I love channels. My entire career has been about channels. Like, hey, would you like to be part of you want to be the company that's selling my product and getting it in early and making a lot of money, and get that human to understand, see themselves in the story where they're rich and famous, and a lot of them were, right? And it's a relational thing. So I need AI systems that will develop and maintain a relationship, that will track, say, okay, I paid less that one time, but they're always a little bit late, or sometimes they're like 10% of the time. But however, depending on the condition, I've been asked to go out and buy this thing, and if I have enough understanding, like a human would, more or less, of why I'm buying these things, that I can look at my sources and say, here is the tracker and here's the history, and navigate that forward over time. So I think it's really, it is because it is we're not avoiding this one, right? This is happening. I'm telling you, I've started a company. We're not hiring a lot of salespeople to do that by hand. And the relationship map of the people who might be customers is much more like the inside of my head, but now it's in computers. We need companies to understand who they're buying and selling from, and not just because your VP of sales or your 3 salespeople personally know these relationships.
And to your point, Chris, I think my cousins just came last weekend to visit me, and one is about to graduate with a degree in advertising, and she was speaking to me, and I was listening, and I was fascinated at what she's learning. And I thought about how it actually makes sense that we are overloaded with all these advertisements of, it's almost creepy to some extent of what, of what's being suggested. We say something, and next thing you know, we have a bunch of ads. But in the class that she was taking, they started talking about brands and how we are becoming, as people, we want to be, look at brands and say, okay, this is a good brand and this is what I want. And I think the same is going to work, where we are becoming smart consumers. And we are so tired of being told, like, just buy this for whatever reason. We want to know now, I have, this is what I need. Give me suggestions on how to either fix what I need if I'm a do-it-yourselfer and I'm trying to fix something I'm in my house, or, from everything to, the type of technology I want. I think this is changing the game, and I think it's important.
And I think it works out okay in the end, right? I've been, a Pollyanna for, since before computers, since the 80s, and so forth, that it's not all bad. And look at what I've seen in advertising and sales in my life. Is people trying to literally spending money to advertise things to me that I'm physically incapable of buying, right? And much less. So now, as you're saying, Kate, now we're in the world where it's a little creepy how well what I would buy, right? So our targeting has gotten that good to the point that it's bad, right? You can't just creep up on your customers all the time. They'll stop buying from you. So we're getting a resistant pressure to that.
I think the future could hold more than just automation and buying buying at the lowest price. If it really was effective, we could be headed to a future that looks more like arbitrage, like the way stocks are sold. I mean, you see this manually being done today with OpenAI getting, this much bandwidth and compute and reserving it today. They're capturing that because they need it. They don't want to lose it to the competitors. I mean, I could imagine, products, which does happen to a degree today, products being bought and sold because right now there's a window where I can buy this as a channel person, as a reseller, and, buy it for $1.50 less, and in quantity make some good money on doing that, or dump something that's not performing well. So maybe we're moving closer to an arbitrage kind of scenario.
let me tell you how that's going to play out, because at the end of every fiscal quarter, every buyer is going to wait till 2 seconds before midnight for the best deal possible, because they know that vendor is desperate to mark that revenue into that quarter.
That's what we do as humans. So why wouldn't the computer?
You know what I sort of wonder when I read this article is, what does the sales kickoff of SCO look like with all these AI agents?
Well, they're all in the President's Club. All right. Hey, guys, I've got to pull the plug on this one. We've got to move on. It's been a great gang today. Chris, Kate, Mitch, Mike, thank you. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the rest of Techstrong TV immediately following. I believe, do we have a Tech Field Day today?
We have Tech Field Day, which I am at. So I'm happy to be joining everybody there. So watch the Tech.
Very cool.
It's actually Network Field Day, but yes. Network
Field Day. Very cool. We will be back tomorrow, though, with more gang and more fun and more good discussion. Until then, though, this is Alan Shimel for Techstrong. We're out.